Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. 20 people were killed and 81 more injured in a bombing attack today in the Philippines. It was one of the deadliest attacks in the unstable region in recent years. The attack was carried out during a church service in the country's Restev South, less than a week after passing the referendum on the autonomy of the region from surrounding Islamic governance.
2 explosions claimed the life of 20 and wounded another 81. The attack took place in the cathedral on Jola Island during service just 6 days after passing the referendum on autonomy from the majority Islamic region. According to officials, 2 separate bombs went off, one inside the cathedral during service, followed by a second blast outside detonated as the security forces arrived at the scene. The Philippine military have yet to recover from the longest battle since World War II with Islamic loyalists, and moments of conflicts are still readily observable in the south of the country. The region where the attack took place was dominated by Muslim population and is a point of conflict between the religions.
The Mass concluding the 34th World Youth Day took place in Panama City today. Estimated 700,000 faithful traveled to the Central American country this week to participate in the event initiated by Pope John Paul II. Many international government officials, including First Lady of Poland, gathered to take part in the Mass held by Pope Francis.
Young pilgrims from over 150 countries participated in the World Youth Days in Panama over the last several days. Among the largest representations was the group from Poland, counting over 4,000 people. The final Mass was held in several languages, and by the end of the Mass, Cardinal Kevin Joseph Farrell revealed that Lisbon will be the host of World Youth Days 2022.
The 74th anniversary of the liberation of the German death camp Auschwitz was commemorated today at the Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial and Museum. 50 survivors were present for the ceremony, in which the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki stressed the importance of calling the perpetrator by the right name. He underlined that the genocide was not carried out by Nazis, but Hitlerite Germany.
Several hundred people, including the 50 survivors and their families, participated in the commemoration ceremony on the grounds of the former German death camp, in which around 1 million Jews and 70,000 Catholic Poles were murdered during the Second World War. One of the survivors present for the ceremony, Jacek Nadolny, said that it's important to not let the memories of the atrocities devour you. I am glad to be able to pay tribute to those who did not survive. I am happy to be here, and those things that we experience here, we should slowly forget. I mean, you should remember about it, but don't recall it so you don't inflict trauma on yourself, because we will be lost if we keep recalling the past. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki was present at the ceremony and stressed the need to remember who the perpetrators were. It was not Nazis who sought the extermination back then, but it was done by Hitlerite Germany. Hitlerite Germany was fed on the ideology of fascism, which was then and up to this day is called like this by all historians. This evil derived from Germany, and we cannot forget about that, because otherwise the relativization of the evil takes place. The first 30 inmates were sent to Auschwitz on May 30th, 1940. The camp was in operation until the arrival of the Soviet army on January 27, 1945.
A Polish social club has recently cancelled a book fair featuring conservative-leaning authors after facing backlash from the political left. According to the organizers of the event, the fair was cancelled due to the coinciding Holocaust Remembrance Day. The British left have been heavily criticizing the club with fascist and racist branding and accused the event for hosting the far right.
We decided to organize the 3rd edition of the right-wing book fair with associated meeting and discussion. We rented the club, informed them of the invited guests, and everything went smoothly until the last few days. The event was scheduled for today, that is the 27th of January. And we've been attacked by the left and extreme left, including Polish left. Owners of the building were threatened with death and arson. I've also had death threats levied on social media, with the post pulled down later. Even Labour politicians were engaging in the attacks. Polish left-wing media are calling us and our guests neo-Nazis, which is totally false and unsubstantial. Something strange is happening in Great Britain. I've heard Tory politicians calling the ruling party in Poland neo-Nazis. The world is upside down, and Poles should unite, at least those who still stand for freedom of speech. I did not hear of such uproar concerning other nationalities and obstructing their meetings with their writers or national politicians. Unfortunately, this is the case with Polish gatherings.
After being declined by the Democrats on multiple attempts to find compromise for the wall and to end the government shutdown, the U.S. President Donald Trump voiced out this Friday on the possibility of declaring border security an emergency.
U.S. President Donald Trump hosted several Hispanic pastors at the White House this Friday, where the issue of the government shutdown and the border wall came into discussion.
I think we have a chance, yeah. I think we have a good chance. We're going to work with the Democrats, we're going to see. And if we can't do that, then we'll do, obviously, we're going to do the emergency, because that's what it is. It's a national emergency. These are Hispanic pastors and reverends and ministers, and they understand better than anybody. It's an emergency. It's a humanitarian emergency.
Absolutely.
And we are going to take care of our border. It's going to be done. And crime is going to go down throughout our whole country, not just at the border. And the border is the least of it. It's what comes in through the border and permeates throughout the whole country. And you're going to see drugs drop way down because a big percentage come in through the border. You will see drugs way down. You're going to see crime go way down. So we're going to do it, and we're doing well, and I really appreciate your being here.
The Democratic leaders sounded off on the issue.
The American people do not like it when you throw a wrench into the lives of government workers over an unrelated political dispute. Working people throughout America empathized with the federal workers and were aghast at what the president was doing to them. Hopefully now the president has learned his lesson.
The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, also spoke out about the issue.
I mean, the point is today we have come to a way to go forward to debate the best ways to protect our border. I don't see this as any power play.
That's it for today. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily business section with our very own Alexander Wojcicki and his special guests.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's look at the forecast for tonight. Temperatures will grow up a little to 1 degree in Wrocław and Zielona Góra. In central Poland, temperatures will range about -3 degrees. The coldest places that night will be Podlasie, Lubelszczyzna and Warmia i Mazury with -5 degrees. Snowfall is expected almost in all regions. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. Monday will bring us the highest temperatures from 1 to 4 degrees on the northwest and on the south. More sunlight will appear in the north. In central Poland, we expect snowfall, low pressure. Let's check the weather for the next days. On Tuesday, temperatures will range from 1 to 3 degrees. A lot of sun will appear on the east and in central Poland. Wednesday will bring us more sun. Showers are expected along the Baltic coast. On Thursday, snowfall will return to us and will appear all over Poland. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight our guest is Michał Kubicki of Association Against Unfair Banking Practices, or Stop Bankowemu Bezprawiu in Polish. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We are discussing the issue of unfair banking practices in terms of granting loans denominated against foreign currencies, mainly French francs and euro. This hit hundreds of thousands of Polish families in 2008 and 2010. And when our authorities learned that such a practices took place?
Actually, the first problem was highlighted when the financial crisis hit the US. So at the end of 2008. Then the Polish currency very quickly deteriorated, and within a couple of months, the exchange rate against Swiss franc was 50% higher than
in 2008 when there was a lowest exchange. Yes.
Exactly. So that was the first major hit for Polish Swiss franc loan takers, let's call it that way. That was over 1 million loans at that time. Today we have slightly over 400,000, but it's still over 1 million people that are facing problems after 10 years of paying back the loans. So it's a huge problem. So the first thing was the financial crisis, and since then, not much has changed for better.
So while those loans were advertised and pushed to the customers, the government or regulatory offices, all those who are looking at the financial market, they were happy about it. They didn't see any dangers, or there were some warning signs already.
They were saying that people should take loans in the currency they make money, but it was, let's say, recommendations only. We are not talking about loans in Swiss francs. We are talking about a complex financial instruments. Banks were not giving Swiss francs.
Right.
None of us got Swiss francs on their accounts. We got zlotys. And banks were securing their positions on the interbanking market with the complex financial instruments like CIRS. And therefore, the unbalanced risk was on the simple people that were taking the loans, and not divided 50-50 between the banks and the customers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the basis of the problem, that we have to take we had to take loans denominated against the Swiss francs, but the banks were not giving the Swiss francs. And today's problem is not only about the exchange rate, but also the complexity of the security that banks had at the time.
Because at the end, you have a simple man who is doing his job, being a journalist, doctor, or running a business, against the highly skilled banker who is operating on the markets far outside of the country. And he's operating on future options that are not part of this agreement. First of all, were these agreements or loans legal in 2008?
There was no law that was saying that they are against the law, but we know that Poland, after joining EU, should also Polish institutions and especially contracts between the parties should include European law. And the European law, especially of the European Council, the Directive 93/13 says that if we have in a contract between the parties an imbalance of the rights and obligations, it should be terminated. And in that case, that what happened between the banks and their customers. Banks were hedging their risk against the exchange rate change, and Polish customers had to pay for it. And they pay still after 10 years.
Right. There's lots of people whose theoretical value of the loan jumped almost 100%, are still paying their debts, and they are above the value of the property when it was both, where else the property value really deteriorated because like 10 years old apartment is definitely much less expensive than the new one. So what were the ideas how to manage this problem?
We have to very openly say that until 2015 there were no ideas.
Like
Nobody was
the
interested.
government decided to pretend that the problem does not exist.
Actually,
Is that
government was saying, not very openly, hello, it's your problem. You took those loans. You should have been aware.
Nobody put a gun to your head while you were signing the papers.
Exactly. Whereas the truth is that we were offered a complex financial instrument instead of simple loan. Because as we said, we were not getting Swiss francs, we were getting Polish zlotys. So there was no such ideas, and 2015 marked another threshold of problems because in January 2015, Swiss central bank decided not to defend the exchange rate of Swiss franc, and it immediately went up. So we had,
because we got a money crisis in between. The euro was in deep trouble, so lots of people decided to switch their accounts from euro, US dollar or the local currencies to the Swiss francs, and then the Swiss francs exchange rose rapidly.
Swiss franc was always perceived as a safe haven in difficult times. So the exchange rate had to go up against all major currencies, but especially against Polish zloty and other Central and Eastern European currencies, which is very important because, as we said, those loans were offered mostly to the Central and Eastern Europeans, and those also are the currencies that suffered after this financial crisis. So if you take a look back 10 years back, you start understanding that it was intentionally offered to Central and Eastern Europeans, including Polish nation, mostly or 99% by foreign banks. So it's not a coincidence that we are where we are now.
And we had this bonanza for Eastern European banks here in Poland. It was a Greek bank operating here as a branch of a Greek bank, not a local one. The Finnish banks, Swedish, all kinds of foreign money came here to get the loans and make profit from Polish market.
Yes, and we were talking about, we remember problems with so-called
Iceland banks.
They solved the problem because most of them went bankrupt, and the politicians said, okay, now you're responsible for what happened, so you have to go to jail. Whereas in Poland, nothing happened, and we had Swiss francs, we had currency options for entrepreneurs a couple of years earlier, and they also suffered. So Poland and Central Europe they were all offered complex financial instruments every 5-6 years.
Right. Normally we put a rosy picture on Polish economy right now, but it's good to talk about things that are not as nice. Mr. Michał Kublicki, thank you very much for participating in this show, and we will talk more about this in the upcoming shows.
Thank you very much.
And that was it for Poland Daily Business Tonight.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's look at the forecast for tomorrow. Monday brings us the highest temperatures from 1 to 4 degrees on the northwest and on the south. More sunlight will appear in the north. In central Poland we expect snowfall. Low pressure. Now let's check the weather for Europe. In the Balkans, temperatures will range from 5 in Bucharest to 13 in Athens. Still warm on the Iberian Peninsula. Temperatures will range between 15 and 17 degrees. British Islands also with good weather with sunny sky. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. In today's episode, we're here at the Warsaw Uprising Museum. It's not widely known that Polish music, literature, cinema, and nightlife scene were thriving between the First and Second World War. So join us as we take you on a journey through that period with the people who knew it best.
Polish culture in the interwar period witnessed the rebirth of Polish sovereignty. The nationalhood, along with its cultural heritage, was no longer suppressed by the three foreign partitioners. The cultural development saw the retreat of the 19th century elite cultures, of nobility as well as the traditional folk culture, and the rise of a new mass culture integrating Polish society closer to the new intelligentsia educated in the practice of democracy.
I'm here with Mr. Artur Gorniejewski. Mr. Gorniejewski, welcome back to Poland Daily Culture.
Thank you very much for your invitation. It will be a pleasure of mine to answer your questions connected with Polish history.
Well, we will be discussing Polish culture in the interwar period, but just before we get into discussing that, could you sort of set the scene for us regarding Polish society in the years just after 1918?
Well, Poland just got back the independence, 11th of November, widely known as Amnesty Day or Veterans Day or Remembrance Day. Then in Poland, it's our Independence Day. 11th of November 1918 is a moment when Poland got back the independence after 123 years. So 123 years, 5 generations not being on the map. So imagine, not your parents, not grandparents, not great-grandparents, but great-great-grandparents of yours were living in an independent country of yours. So what do we remember about our great-great-grandparents? What could Polish people know about their identity, about their culture? And very important personalities of that period of time, like we talked about, Frédéric Chopin had very big impact on this period of time. And Polish people knew that they made a lot of work to make it happen. And then it's happening. Once again, we get back our independence. Of course, no one's thinking that another war may occur. No one's taking under consideration that there was World War I, and then there will be World War II, so that everyone were calling this war the Big War.
So, could you tell us then about the this interwar period and what sort of characterized Polish culture in this time?
Cosmopolitan culture and cosmopolitan trends were approaching and reaching Poland very quickly. If there is something very heavy in your life, if there is something very difficult and it's over, then you feel relaxed, then you feel like it's gone. And this is what people were feeling like all over planet Earth, and exactly the same in Poland. So international ideas were reaching Poland, and also Polish ideas were reaching another countries very soon, very quickly. In this period of time, surely Poland was one of many countries that was prevailing on the entire planet Earth. And that's why many things that were happening in Poland till nowadays have impact on entire, for instance, movie industry.
The spirit of rebirth affected not only Poland's mainstream society, but also national, ethnic, and religious minorities. By the late 1930s, the Ukraine press could boast some 68 titles, published mainly in Lwów, Stanisławów, and Kołymia. The most important was the Lwów Daily Dilo, the Deed, with the strong cultural and liberal background. It was published on a weekly basis already since 1880, but in the interwar Poland it had expanded to 10 pages per day, with 10 full-time workers. Other popular dailies included Nowy Czas and the Ukraine Wieści. The Belarusian press consisted of 16 periodicals, and the Lithuanian as well as Russian press published around 10 titles each. At Warsaw University, the seminars on Ukraine history were held by renowned scholar Professor Myron Korduba, who taught Jerzy Giedroyć, among others.
And was there something that was making the Polish culture sort of unique or somehow slightly different to its neighbours or the rest of Europe? Was there something specific about that Polish culture at that time that really defined it?
Polish culture and Polish country once again appeared on the maps. So in these days, everyone knew that there was a very strong country of Poland. There were people who were promoting Polish culture during that period of time. For instance, Jan Ignacy Paderewski, one of first VIPs in the US, amazing performer, highly appreciated by US presidents, becomes Polish prime minister. So a musician who was promoting Polish culture then becomes a prime minister of Poland, and then everyone knows about it, that he was performing Chopin in an amazing way. We are having very strong personalities like Marshal Józef Piłsudski, who was the one who convinced European leaders after World War I that there was a country once more needed on Europeans' map in between Germany and Russia, so that these two will not have an common border anymore, but there will be a buffer area in between them. So Poland gets back the independence in 1918, very big country, a country that's instantly in war with Russia. Bolsheviks revolution. Bolshevik revolution that starts in 1917, and Bolsheviks that wanted to conquer weak Europe after World War I were saying, we'll just cross Poland. Because how is it possible that Polish people will unite and fight together as far as during World War I, Polish man was fighting another Polish man? As far as that was Russia, Prussia, Germany, and Austria, then Polish men were fighting for these three countries, and this is how Polish man was shooting another Polish man during World War I. Poland was undermined when it comes to military strength, and then Poland was the country that stopped Bolshevik revolution in 1920 at the so-called miracle at Vistula River. Marshal Józef Piłsudski is right over there. Poland stopped the revolution, and then Polish culture could develop.
I guess it's interesting because you were saying, you know, if Poland could have like a musician who could become the president, it really says something for the value with which the Polish public would place on a cultural figure. And it's really kind of you know, it's almost more difficult to imagine that in these times. So do you think, therefore, that the Polish public placed more value on these cultural figures during that period than perhaps even we do today, that they could be elevated to such a position?
It's not only about the branch of Jan Ignacy Paderewski, so musician, so classical music performer, even though it was extremely important in these days, then still what's even more important is what he really did for us. Jan Ignacy Paderewski, before every single performance, would stand up, greet the guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Polish, I want Poland to be independent again, thank you very much. And then his performances and interpretation of Frédéric Chopin music, which meant for our culture and European culture and the world's culture so much, made him not only a very important and recognizable person, but also what he really did, his acts, were important for our independence. Among with Maria Skłodowska, widely known as Madame Curie, discovered two elements, radium and polonium. So we are not having Poland for more than 100 years, and there is a scientist who says, the second element I discovered will have a name of my homeland country, polonium. Albert Einstein was sitting right next to her, and another man. She was the only woman during such gatherings, but soon things will change. World War I will come. And this is a moment in world's history where women had to do men's stuff. So to do men's stuff, they had to dress up in a way that would allow them to do so. The same when it comes to hairdressing style. The same when it comes to general things that women and men were taken care of during World War I and then after the war that was soon following.
Okay, Mr. Artur Gorniejewski, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us here at Poland Daily Culture at the Warsaw Uprising Museum. Join us again tomorrow as we take another fascinating journey through Polish culture.
Ladies and gentlemen, today on Poland Daily History, we will explore in depth the history of the szabla, or the Polar Sabre. This is the weapon that is immortalized by the Polish wing hussars that spread fear throughout European history, and it was used to save Christianity in the famous Battle of Vienna. Today, we will talk to the expert, Marcin Bąk, an instructor of fencing and historical fencing. And later on in the program, he will teach us a few moves. Does the military style of fencing have any difference from the contemporary sports fencing that we see nowadays?
To są bardzo różne rodzaje szermierki. Pierwsza rzecz, którą widać gołym okiem.
These are two very different types of fencing. The first obvious distinction is the difference in weapon. The sports saber is very thin at the back, while the battle saber, this is a late battle saber from the late 20th century, is heavier, wider, and of course it is sharp. It's actually a completely different weapon. The aims are completely different as well. When fencing is a sport, we want to score a point, win the battle, and then shake hands. We don't want to do any harm. In military fencing, the weapon is sharp. We want to cut, injure, or kill the opponent. The difference is quite substantial. In sports fencing, the force of the hit isn't important.
Chcemy ciąć, zranić albo zabić przeciwnika. Różnica jest dość znaczna. W szermierce sportowej nie jest ważna siła uderzenia. Tak? Czy uderzenie silne?
A strong hit and a light touch have the same importance. In military fencing, a light swipe won't injure the opponent efficiently, particularly when he is also wearing armor or some thick item of clothing, so you have to put some force behind it. You have to make a particular type of motion. The saber is heavier in historic military fencing, so the movements are slower. Everyone moves slower. They attack slower and defend slower.
Broń jest ciężka w szermierce bojowej, historycznej, więc te ruchy są wolniejsze. Wszyscy poruszają się wolniej i wolniej atakują.
In sports fencing, the very light saber moves around so quickly that the audience watching from the side often have trouble keeping up with the movements. Another thing, historic military fencing used to take place on the ground, whether that be on stones, grass, gravel, ice or snow, or on horseback.
Była bojowa albo na ziemi.
Actually, mounted fencing is a separate story, a very interesting one in fact, because you also have to be a good rider. The modern fencer has good shoes and a good surface, so the differences are great, even if the idea is similar.
Chociaż idea jest dość podobna.
So you mentioned that the mounted fencing and the normal standing fencing has some significant differences, and I was wondering if you can go a bit into the details of the difference between mounted and the standing form of fencing.
To jest w ogóle bardzo ciekawa kwestia. Mało kto wie o tym, że była również wersja szermierki konnej.
This is very interesting. Very few know that there was also a sport-mounted version of fencing. Among others, Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of the modern Olympic Games, was a great fan of mounted fencing as a sport. What is the difference in technique?
Na ziemi poruszamy się na własnych dwóch nogach, możemy się poruszać do przodu, atakować przeciwnika, możemy się cofać.
On the ground, we move around on our own 2 feet. We can move forward to attack the opponent, or we can retreat, while on horseback we would also have to be a good rider, a very good rider, in order to be able to handle the opponent. We can't jump back on our feet. We can defend ourselves with our weapon, or try to dodge attacks while in the saddle. Tatars and Cossacks were masters at this. People of the Asian steppes greatly mastered riding and dodging attacks on horseback. Poles learned a lot from them. In the 20th century, Polish cavalry placed a great deal of emphasis on mastering movements in the saddle.
W wieku polska kawaleria duży nacisk przykładała właśnie do opanowania poruszania się w siodle końskim. Jeździec musiał umieć wskoczyć na siodło, zeskoczyć, przechylić się, zawisnąć.
The rider had to be able to jump into the saddle, jump out, tilt and lean over on one side of the horse. These variances were very useful during a battle, whether the fight involved sabres or lances, so the differences are great, although people who fought with weapons on foot and horseback in the 20th century said it is very useful for fighting on foot and on horseback, and we had the opportunity to do it. Perhaps we'll discuss that later. The basic movements, slashing and parries on one side and the other were useful. Another thing that must be remembered is that when fighting on horseback, in front of us we have the horse's head, his ears, so one needs to be very careful when engaging in combat with a sharp saber, not to hurt it, because this is your mount taking you into battle.
Trzeba bardzo uważać, żeby walcząc ostrą szablą, nie zrobić krzywdy własnemu wierzchowcowi, tak? Bo on niesie nas do bitwy. Dobra, Ben, dzisiaj...
Welcome, Ben, to your second lesson in the art of fencing. Today we will do something very simple and yet something which is very useful in battle. It will teach us control over our weapon and to get a feel for its weight. This is the molette, meaning the mill. We have a couple versions of it actually. The first one is the so-called French mill. It looks like this. Here we have the outer French mill. This is how the inner French mill looks like, and then the combined French mill. Give it a try. Come up here and give it a go.
Chodź tutaj bliżej. Najpierw zaczynamy.
Let's start with the outer French mill. The tip of your weapon moves forward, then you twist your wrist and back to the starting position.
Próbujemy. Hop. Spokojnie.
No worries. I will teach you everything you need to know.
Luźno.
A loose grip.
Hop, 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 hop. Hop. I hop. Yes. I jeszcze raz.
One more time. Excellent.
Tak jest. Na początku...
From the start, we need to prepare our wrist. The two fingers which hold on to the grip need to hold on at all times, or else we will drop our weapon and disarm ourselves.
Nie można nigdy puścić, bo nam broń wypadnie z ręki. Sami się rozbroimy. Ale możemy na początku te 3 palce...
He starts with these 3 fingers in an open position. I use this method here, but you can keep those 3 fingers open, but make sure that you hold on with the other 2. Give it a try.
Byle nie te 2. I próbuj. Śmiało. Hop. Dobrze. Hop. Tak jest. Hop. Bardzo dobrze. To jest młyniec francuski zewnętrzny.
That was the outer French mill. Now let's try the inner French mill. We do it in the exactly same way, just twist it in the opposite direction.
Obrót tu. Hop. 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 Dobrze. Tak jest.
Well done. There you go. This is what it's all about. This type of a mill can be used to attack your opponent.
Do ataku na przeciwnika. Hop. Hop, tak? Czyli ja mogę...
I can go like this.
Trust me.
Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I'm just showing you how to do it.
Hop albo hop, ale może być też użyty to defend yourself. Nie? Powolutku, nie? Że...
Come here this way.
Pokażemy. Chodź, 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 chodź. Chodź. Bardzo powoli. W tą stronę. No, powoli, kieruj. Dotknij mnie lekko.
Now swing it lightly toward my collarbone.
Okej, jeszcze raz. Jeszcze. Pach.
Try it again.
Pach. Tak, to jest młyniec. Ten sam ruch.
This is the mill. The same type of move can be used to attack your opponent or to parry an attack from your opponent.
Połączyć te dwa młyńce.
Now let's try to connect the two mills and go for the combined version. The inner mill and the outer mill, and voila! We have the combined mill.
Dobrze, dobrze, dobrze. Trzeba mocno...
You have to practice this move with your wrist quite a lot. Another 1,000 or 2,000 repetitions and you will get the hang of it. So this is the combined French mill.
Mamy młyniec polski, tak?
And now let's try the Polish mill. It's based on the tip of your weapon being swung backwards. In the French mill, it moves forward. Here it moves backwards.
Czyli... dobrze, dobrze. Tak, tak, jeszcze raz.
There you go. Well done.
Po stronie wewnętrznej. Hop, hop, hop. No, spróbuj. Nie, dobrze, dobrze. Teraz zrobiłeś podwójny. A teraz mixed. Hop, 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 hop. Super. Ma jakieś polskie.
Looks like you have some Polish genes in there since you are picking this up very quickly. So now let's try the last type of mill. I'll come over a bit since this one requires some more space. It's known as the Cossack mill.
Nazywany młyńcem kozackim, tak?
It looks quite weird, but it's quite easy actually.
Wszystko łatwo zrobić. Spróbuj.
Now you give it a try. There you go, very nice. For your first attempt, it's really good.
Today we have explored the history and the usage of the Polar Sabre that is iconic to Poland history and have been with Poland throughout years of war. And that's it for today. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily.
Welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where once again we head around Warsaw behind the scenes. We'll be traversing the hidden byways of today to remember the events of yesterday. In the next few episodes, we'll go deep into history to discover moments of past terror and present redemption as we look at some of Warsaw's most harrowing moments. Memories of the Warsaw Ghetto of World War II, when the Nazi occupation made killing zones out of once thriving neighborhoods. For more so than any other city in Europe, Warsaw has seen and felt the 20th century's events at their worst and at their best. From the depths of World War II to the heights of the Solidarity movement, Warsaw has witnessed hideous destruction and glorious rebirth. One might say, in fact, there's no other city like it in the world, and in that sense, this metropolis remains the most human of places, given to fits and starts of soul-crushing violence in its past, along with moments of sheer exuberance as it stretches its vital limbs into the future, into the 21st century. Okay, it's Poland Daily Travel, and we're back. We're behind Umschlagplatz, and the wall behind me is part of the old train station. Wojtek, what's this all about? Why are we here? Besides just to see the wall. What does it mean?
We are here because it's one of those behind-the-scenes locations that you usually will not know about.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
People who are experts in the subject, they know about that. When you look at old pictures of this area, you will see that this is existing long time before World War II. This train station got built in about 1876, maybe a little bit later. And so the wall was only for completely normal standard purposes. In World War II, the whole area was completely misused. And after World War II, everything what was built exactly as the Ghetto Wall got ruined by people. And these areas, they just remained like they were. And when you take a look up here, you will see some of the old barbed wire.
Ah, this is
that we can
barbed
see
wire
here.
from
Yes,
before, yeah.
that's from before.
Yeah.
It served in the times of World War II. Here you have a little bit of that paint or rendering from the time.
Right.
In these places, you can see that some missing bricks were filled up later. But in general, that's a very original
This is the original
construction.
place where the wall
Absolutely.
was.
That's the
Yeah.
original place in which the wall was.
Yeah.
But then people found this wall so special and so precious. And
So precious because of what had
because of its
taken
history,
place here. Yeah.
of its history,
Yeah.
that they have saved a part of the wall by disassembling it and by putting the bricks together with a new
Right.
mortar, and they put it across this yard, just over there, this part over there. So you see, it looks a little bit newer comparing to the other part, but it's the old bricks in here.
What's amazing is if you look around here, I mean, all around us are brand new apartment buildings, or relatively new apartment buildings, right?
They're even brand new, one can
And
say.
some could say brand new.
In the history of Warsaw, there was never really anything built in this area on the left-hand side. When I look at old aerial pictures, I just see small fields, maybe one manor over there, farther away, gardens, but nothing like those big blocks. So yes, that's one of the youngest areas of Warsaw in here. And I guess those people who live here, they are not exactly aware of where they are living.
I wonder if they even know about this wall and what happened here.
I don't think so. Maybe some of them know, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's important to say to viewers that it's not just a wall. First of all, it symbolizes what happened here in 1945 and before, during the Nazi occupation. But it's also an example a rare example of actually a pre-war structure. Or
here. Yes, although
which is
all
very
those
rare.
older
We're going to
looking
see
blocks
more
here,
but, yeah.
they do belong to this pre-World War II structures. Yes, they have been built in 1930s, sometimes a little bit earlier than World War II, but still in 1930s. And they are on the edge of this ruined area, of the most ruined area in Warsaw. So they are kind of survivors. They have been used by administration of Germany until 1944 and until 1945, some of them. Yes, so that's why they were still
Most
standing.
of the buildings that were remaining were buildings that were used as quarters for the Germans.
Yes, that's
certainly
one
in
of
central
the things,
Warsaw.
yes, that's one of the things that you can say, and some of them remained until 1945 January just because they have been hotels or because they have been military barracks of the army, and maybe only because of that. Yeah. In here.
What else about this place should we know? Yeah.
Today, that's just a quiet backyard of a school.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is just
such a contrast to the history.
Yeah.
This is why we need to know history, to know these contrasts. It appears to be the quiet backyard of a school. It is the quiet backyard of a school. But then this wall symbolizes a horror that took place here.
Well, when we are standing here, right in this place, we can look over through this yard towards windows of this next door building over there, which was the administration building of the ghetto area in here, in which German supervisors of this area lived. And it is quite likely that they have established that how the ghetto wall should look like, looking at this part of the wall in here. Looking from the second, most probably looking from the second floor over there. But it's exactly the information that is too direct and, that can be falsified in here. So let's put it together in a different sentence.
Okay, put it together in a different way that makes it...
Yeah, because it's about this thought,
Yeah.
This part of the wall is also quite significant because we assume that it might be the model for the ghetto wall. We know that only a couple of meters away from here, just opposite side of the street, in those windows that I can look towards to right now, German administration was sitting. And most likely they just told Jewish people in here to replicate this wall all around for 18 kilometers of a wall.
So the idea for the ghetto wall may have originated right here.
It looks like that because the height is similar.
Right.
The barbed wire at top of that is also quite similar. You had some pieces of glass at top of the wall earlier, and you might see some of these pieces of glass put into concrete over there too. And also this standard way of building a wall with those protrusions in here, with those bricks coming up here to make it a little bit stronger, that reassembles the ghetto wall very, very much. And it was always that these bricks standing out of the wall and making it a little bit stronger, they always faced towards inside of the ghetto area and not outside. Outside the wall was completely flat. And this rule went on and was followed over those more than a dozen of kilometers of a wall in here. Yeah. But we know that this is not the ghetto wall, or not a wall built especially for the ghetto area, because we don't have special stamps in here. Most of the bricks used for the ghetto wall originally had small stamps of a company in the middle of the brick. And in this case, we don't have them in here.
We forget, you know, walls are made to keep things out, but walls are also made to keep things in.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we Europeans don't like walls, yes, in general. And we do shrink as we hear of building up a wall and letting others pay for that.
Poland Daily Travel, we're here at what is perhaps the origin of the ghetto wall, which walled in the whole Jewish ghetto from 1941 to 1943.